Transition awareness breathing. Feeling grounded for both children and parents is essential for healthy living and learning. Join Eartha Powell on this series for tips and tools for creating a harmonious environment for learning. Transition awareness breathing will help you and your child find an individualized path to tackle change, promote lifelong learning, and discover new approaches to calmness.
There is so much chaos in our minds, in our relationships, and in our society. And we can remember the intention of this practice as an antidote. Welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. This is Eartha. Thank you so much for coming back one more time and listen as I share with you mindfulness, relaxation, breathing, awareness, information to be an antidote to help move through the chaos of our minds, our relationships, and our society. First, I would like to thank Web Talk Radio for allowing me to have a platform to bring Transition Awareness Breathing podcast to you. And I would like to thank my producers, Mary Lou and Sam, for making it available to you wherever you are at. Let's get started. Now, the quote that I read is from the Mindfulness Education Workbook, and its author is Daniel Reichstoffen. I thought it was a beautiful quote that I wanted to start our session today because I just think it's so appropriate in our times. I went to one of the stores here locally, and I want to make sure that you know that I don't want to share any names or anything like that, but the situation is more important. And I was talking with a young lady who was checking us out, our merchandise. And my children were with me, and she had asked if the children could step behind the line because there's a policy that only one customer should be up at the cash register at one time. Not a problem. I asked my children to step back and so we can continue our transaction. It wasn't a big deal. She was so thankful. She was so thankful. And she shared how in these recent days, many times, a lot of customers are really more aggressive, more tense, and sometimes asking different requests seems to trigger a negative response. And I listened to her, and I really felt for her because what she said was sometimes coming to work is not all that pleasant. And I'm sure she's not the only one that feels that way. I think we are in a time where is a lot of stress, and the emotions and the coping skills that we're trying to pull ourselves to use, they're stressed. And so transition awareness breathing is a tool, and any mindfulness or relaxation breathing is a tool to help us stay balanced and stay grounded to what is really important. And just as I shared with a young lady, I said, if you asking me to have my children step behind this yellow line, if that's the most stressful part of my day, I mean, then I feel like I'm pretty lucky because there's bigger things that I could really, if I really wanted to allow myself to get stressed about, I probably can choose a whole lot more bigger things than stepping behind a line. And that's just my total opinion. But when I came across this quote about there's so much chaos in our minds and our relationships and our society, I had to think back, and I says, I wanted to share this with you. I want to talk a little bit about, let's go back to our foundation and talk about our posture. Because when we're in a chaotic state of mind, when we feel unbalanced, when we're not sure, when we're feeling stressed, there's one thing that is very comforting is if we can feel a firm foundation underneath our feet. And sometimes if we do things like standing firm or sitting with our feet firm on the floor, just that practice helps get our mind in a state of awareness. If you've been to a movie and it has you on the edge of your seat, remember that term? Oh, I went to a good movie and I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen. And when the movie was over, you felt like you were in another world, because when you came back after the movie, it was like, whoa, that was a good movie. Remember your posture? Maybe, your eyes were open, but, your awareness, your feet were on the floor, or maybe, you had them tucked underneath you as you sat with your legs crisscrossed. But if you can remember, your bottom may have been, I don't know, everybody looks at television in different positions, but I bet you it was pretty firm and planted. You weren't on a rocky surface. You didn't have to worry about balancing. Why? Because your attention was on what was going on in the movie. And you want to be comfortable. You don't want to be worried about, you go to a movie, you want to sit in a good seat. You don't want this flimsy seat. You don't want to be too close. You don't want to be too far back. I mean, you want to be right there. And I think when we get our posture, when we're sitting for mindfulness, I think we should have that same kind of attention. Put our feet on the floor. Sit on the edge of our chair, like we're ready. And then, maybe in the movie we're staring at the screen, but just take a few moments and maybe think about the breathing. You're thinking about the breath going in and then blowing it out. Or maybe, you can have your eyes a little bit closed, a little bit open, and maybe you have a focal point, something in your room, something that you can kind of stare at. Or another thing is you can focus and listen for the quiet. Now, when you're listening for the quiet, there's going to be different visitors, different distractors. And so those distracting noises are important, because as those visitors come, those distracting sounds come, you can ask them, you have to wait, and then go back to the quiet. So when we're talking about posture, you don't have to sit crisscrossed. You don't have to, have your legs tucked underneath you any kind of special way, because the important thing here is to sit with a firm foundation. We want our minds to feel that it is secure, that it is safe. So we can sit on a park bench, we can sit in a comfortable chair. Make sure our feet are firm on the floor, and our bottom is firmly planted. We don't want to feel like we're teeter-tottering. If you have any kind of special needs or something like that, and if sitting down is uncomfortable, then lie down. You remember when I have talked before and I invite you to get into a comfortable position, I invite you to sit or stand or lie down, because you don't want to be in a battle with your body, so to speak. You want everything to be focused on the awareness and the attention of your focal point, of your breath, of the thing that you're staring at. You don't want to be thinking about a distracting visitor element of something is this is not comfortable for my back, or my leg is starting to fall asleep, or you want to feel comfortable. When you're sitting, if that's what you can do, sitting on the edge of the chair, not too far on the edge, but a little bit, midway in the chair, not with your back against the back part of the chair, because remember, you're in a state of wow. I'm aware. I'm alert. I'm looking at this. I'm paying attention to my breath. I'm listening for the quiet. I'm very attentive, just like going to a movie and you're trying to hear every single word. So much so that if somebody came in or talked to you during your movie time, you would say, shh, stop, not now. And that's what you have to tell those distracting thoughts, or the distractors that come in and try to take your attention away from your concentration of your breathing, or when you're looking at your focal point. So why is this important? Because what it does, it builds up our attention muscle, so to speak. Our hands can rest nicely relaxed on our laps or on our knees. You don't have to hold your hands in any particular way. You probably don't want your hands flopping around, but just in a comfortable, relaxed position. And so every time you take time for your mindfulness session, this is the position that you want to get into. Because when you start to go and you start building your time up in your mindfulness time, you're going to be there for a little while. Imagine, if you're at the movies, you're going to be there for a little while, so you want to be comfortable. You don't want any pressure. And then you're ready to go and begin your breathing. And, if you want to use music or something like that. But how do you take yourself there? That's the question. You're sitting, you're practicing. Now what? I've been talking, and so what do? I often times I think of pleasant things. Sometimes I think of my parents. My parents are dead, and they've passed away several years ago. But what I remember, when I think about my parents, I think about the memories. I think about the pleasant memories that we shared. Those memories never go away. And so, in this workbook, the Mindfulness Education Workbook by Daniel Reichstoffen, he has an exercise, and it's called Roses and Thorns. And that's what he describes it as, is, maybe think of one good feeling, and then maybe another feeling that is a thorn. But I tend to think about the rose part of when I'm trying to get myself in this mindfulness zone. And maybe it's 1 minute, 2 minutes. And then sometimes I just, when I'm outside, if that's where I'm at, is just listening to the sounds. Sometimes I'm focused on the birds. We have a lot of birds in the backyard. Sometimes I focus on the clouds, It's for me, if I'm in a large, crowded area, I don't tend to do my mindfulness practice at that time, but I might mindfully watch what I'm saying, mindfully interact with people. But if I really want to do my relaxation, I usually need to have a moment or two away. So mindfulness and relaxation breathing can be done anywhere. And the more you practice, the stronger you will become. Let this practice be an antidote for you. Take the chaos that's going on in your mind or in your relationship, the response that you may be having to the chaos of our society. Let yourself know that you are very important, that as you can step away and not take other people's reactions upon yourself, but think about your own feelings and see where you're at. And sometimes we can bring calmness in the midst of chaos. Thank you so much again for joining me. I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day.
Be sure and pick up a copy of Eartha's new book, Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's not just an ordinary coloring book. It features 23 illustrations to stimulate thought, relaxation, and creativity for anyone between the ages of 4 and 94. Increase your positive self-talk energy. Unlock new creative paths. Transform your time once or twice a week to create beautiful art while strengthening confidence, building positive self-talk, and sensitize self-awareness. Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's available now at Amazon.com.